Welcome back to another episode of the Grassroots Tennis Podcast, a platform created to entertain, educate, and grow the game of tennis at all levels. My friends call me Ship, but this show isn't about me. We'll be bringing you interviews with coaches, community leaders, and players, along with updates about tennis happening around the world. Tennis is a culture, and we are all writing tennis history together. Today, I am here with the NAIA legend, Mr. Gregg, who just got done winning the NAIA ITA Fall Cup essentially for this school year. Perry, you are the NAIA national champ, so to speak. First and foremost, I just want to say welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk tennis and, debunk some myths about tennis and talk anything about my life or anything about tennis. Let's do it.
First and foremost, I'm really excited because one of my goals, I actually have something coming up. Like I want to talk to people, Division II, Division III, JUCO, even club tennis, kind of giving people just that are tennis enthusiasts kind of a peek at all levels, because I think that's one of the coolest things about this sport is that there's a level for everyone. But what you're doing is kind of unique. So not only, am I finally getting to talk to someone in AIA, but right now I'm talking to the champ. So I first and foremost, I'm going to start in somewhere a little bit different than where I normally start. And I just wanted to talk about the NAIA national championships, the ITA Fall Cup. So from my understanding, the NAIA is not the only affiliate body that is playing at the same time. This is happening in Alabama. Could you kind of explain the vibe and the atmosphere of what's going on during these championships and what that looks like?
Yeah, so it's in Rome, Georgia, and
Oh,
and it's basically they have like 75 courts, like six indoor courts. It's a super nice facility, and so they host the D2, D3, junior college, and NAIA tournaments all simultaneously at this one site. And so it's a massive tournament, hundreds of players showing up, coaches, friends, fans. It's kind of like the NCAA D1 tournament just for all the other divisions. And so that was last week. It's a week long, if you make it that long. And so I was there with my teammate, Lawrence Flenders, who's German, and then Nikita Shneshko, who's our assistant coach this year, and who I'm also playing doubles with on the pro tour. And so it was us three, and then our coach Eric Mahone. And so yeah, we were there, and I was playing singles and doubles, and grinding. It's been like a span of 3 weeks where I've played quite a few matches, probably at least 25 matches, going from two futures to this national tournament. So I mean, I was on a roll, and I was feeling good about it. But it's a sick tournament. I mean, for all the guys, there's a lot of foreign guys in this tournament who kind of don't have D1 eligibility, but are really good and talented. So you get really good tennis, and I mean that's kind of the situation I was in as well, where it's a unique pathway, but it works. So it's a fun tournament.
I think first and foremost, I did misspeak. So you said it's in Rome, Georgia. Is it a spectator friendly event? Like, do you feel like there's a lot of
Oh
spectators there?
yeah. Um, I Well, the matches like are live streamed, so I believe probably most of like the tennis fans are, parents, family, friends that are tuning into the stream. I know I had a lot of people watching my live streams. Um, but yeah, there are also just random people showing up, who want to watch tennis who are from the area of Rome, Georgia. But yeah, it's mainly like anyone affiliated with the tennis teams kind of that's there. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of people, so there's a lot of people watching your matches.
I think that's a really cool event that I personally would like to watch at some point. I mean, people don't really talk about it or give enough credit, I guess, to the fact that there are players at every level of the college game. Like you're going to run into people that can really play. And for whatever reason or circumstance, that's what they decided was the best fit for them for college. Not everyone
Mhm.
chooses or even has the availability or the option to do the NCAA Division I route. But there are really, really good players in NAIA, in JUCO, in Division II and Division III at the very top of each level. There are some guys that can really play, and obviously you ran into a lot of those during your event, and obviously came out on top. So that's really really cool. You don't hear a lot about guys who are playing in AIA, making deep runs at pro events, or even attempting. Trying to play professional tennis. You recently simied a 15K, and I didn't know if you could kind of fill us in with your run in Ithaca and how that went.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to play futures for a long time, and had gotten an ATP ranking a while back, and not never really made it, that far. And I feel like now I'm kind of starting to put it all together, tennis wise, mentally, and I was playing some really good tennis. Um, I'm traveling with Nikita, my teammate. Like he's basically our assistant coach, but he played at University of Iowa and then North Dakota after their team got cut. So I mean, he's a Division I level player, pro level player. And so we travel and we play doubles together. So we played doubles there and at Ithaca, the 15K. We lost in the quarterfinal to Shinsuke Mitsui from Tennessee and his other teammate from Tennessee. But we beat two really good guys from Cornell the first round, like 10-4 in the Super Breaker. And then I played singles as well. And I mean, I got on a run. I mean, it's indoors, kind of fast. That's kind of suits me at my height. But I feel like mentally for me, that's the thing that's kind of made the difference in my tennis is just finding a way mentally, with mental coaching to kind of reset your mind every point and just be a relentless player. That's the biggest change for me is just that mental change to be able to like, every point reset, no matter how bad that point was. Forget about that point. The next point, just be relentless, be a dog out there. Like, and that's what I've been able to do. And like that showed this week in Ithaca where I was, I made a tear and beat like three guys who were ranked 500 in the world ATP. So, and then that gives you a lot of confidence. And I'm starting to think, well, how far can I go if I continue this mentality? Who knows who I can and can't beat? It's not predetermined. It's up to me to see. So, um, I've definitely got a lot of confidence from that week, and it was pretty fun. Cornell hosted a really amazing tournament, and there everyone was super nice, super considerate, and yeah, I love that. My buddy Alafia went to Cornell, so it feels like home. Um, Ithaca's also really beautiful in the fall too. So yeah.
No, I think that's a great explanation. And that was actually going to be my next question: is what did you feel like has improved most in your game? And the things that come to mind for a lot of people is it can be rally tolerance, it can be fitness level, it can be just that focus level. Sometimes people have dips and being able to just maintain level. And it sounds like for you, it's been a little bit of a change in your mindset. It's you feel like you have the tools, but bringing the right mentality throughout the entirety of a match and sustaining that is something that can be said. I've been telling my junior players for a long time the level of fitness has to match the level of tennis, but you can't it's hard to focus through an entire match if your fitness level is going away. So for young kids that's usually really good advice, but then you get to your level and that's such base level advice. Like there's something more there. So to hear you say that dog really came out and you had another level of fight, is there something that inspired that, or is it just you finally got enough experience and something clicked, or what's happening for you? And what, in addition to that, if you could tell us what have you specifically been working on in practice recently that you feel like maybe has attributed to some of your success?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say like my confidence recently has been it's a lot of things coming together. I mean, I've changed my diet. That helped me a lot. I try to kind of cut out most added sugars and junk food and dairy and like that stuff. And I did that working with a mental coach for the last few months. Um, and, I've been working on kind of how to talk to myself during stressful moments, not just on the court, but off court too. And, using box breathing, some breathing techniques. And there's a mental health program here at Notre Dame that I've been working with that has, that's the mental coaching aspect that I've been working on. And, they've equipped me with, the breathing techniques, mantras to kind of talk to myself on court and kind of, use to kind of reset myself and be relentless on the court. Like that's really what's made me mentally stronger on the court. But I mean, being mentally strong is just one part of the equation. And for me, another problem I had was I was cramping a lot. Just over the summer, in July, I played in Champaign. I played a 15K there, and I qualified. It was really hot. It was maybe 90 degrees, super humid in the Midwest as it gets in the summer. And I played Ozone first round, and I find myself cramping after the first set. I lost 7-5, had break point chances, and I'm cramping, and I lost my mind that match because this is a problem I've had for a long time. And so after that, I was pretty depressed, but I figured let me just work on fitness. And, I've always loved soccer. I grew up playing soccer pretty competitively. I was on track to be on the national team when I was 12, 13. So I figured let me do something fun, take my mind off tennis. Something that's like soccer is extremely good for fitness. And so I tried to join the club soccer team at Notre Dame. I was going out with my parents and just doing drills, playing, practicing whenever I could, doing sprints like with the ball and stuff like that. And then I was also working on my serve. And those are the two things like that really helped me just like really getting my fitness to another level. And then I started doing the bike for 30 minutes every day, stationary bike. I was in the gym lifting a little bit, but not too much. Um, I like to do a lot of um, I think what do they call it? Like more calisthenics. I think that's what it is, where you're kind of lifting your own body weight versus just lifting, pure lifting. But um, those things fitness wise is what made the difference because then, I haven't cramped at all in a long time. Um, and I had to figure out some other supplement things. I take a magnesium supplement. I use a lot of Gator lights, way too many Gator lights, but those are the kind of things that were key. So I think it's a combination of those things and then getting my mind right, and figuring out how to just really ignore the bad things, the bad parts that happen in every match. There's going to be something that bothers you. There's going to be something that goes completely wrong that you can't figure out, or you're going to be just struggling. You're going to be losing, and you're going to be, but those are the days where you're feeling like you're playing bad, and you still have to find a way through those matches if you want to be a successful pro tennis player. So those are the things where I find myself getting through more matches where I'm playing average tennis or I'm feeling like this is not my best tennis. But by being mentally stronger and using, box breathing, basically I use box breathing to kind of and mantras to kind of reset my mind, and that's been really helpful to me. And I find myself able to kind of stay calm in moments where I'm like everything's going wrong and I'm down a set, I'm down a break, and it's like, wow, wait, like now I'm finding myself coming back from those matches and winning those matches, which I never did before. So that's probably the biggest difference is just being mentally stronger. And yeah, I mean that's due to Golden Touch, Golden Minds. It's basically like the NIL program here at Notre Dame, Holy Cross, and St. Mary's. But they also are doing a mental health program for athletes at the Tri campus, like at all three schools. So they're helping me with mental coaching, and it's been really helpful. So um,
Could you
yeah, those
can
are those are. And then, sorry to answer the last part of your question. The yeah, on court, I would say my backhand has gotten a lot better in the last year. My coach Eric Mahone has worked on, like I did a lot of just like left-handed backhand drills
Mhm.
in the last year, just trying to work on that, getting my left hand under the backhand. And so my backhand's really solid now. And I've gotten a lot of confidence just from, you know, that because before my backhand was really shaky and guys just knew they had to get it to my backhand and I would miss. And now that's not the case. So, you know, they find themselves trying to get it to my backhand and then wondering, oh, uh-oh, I just lost that point. What's happening? I thought Perry Gregg had no backhand, but but now, yeah. So that's one thing. And then, trying to get to net more because I have a massive forehand, but you got to follow it up with some net skills to kind of finish off the points. And in Ithaca, I was doing that really well. It's harder to do it for me when I'm playing on slower courts, and sometimes I lack confidence a little bit in getting to net. But that's also something that's kind of coming together, and like I'm trying to do that a lot more. So yeah,
Those are great answers. Couple little tidbits. One, in hindsight, even though you cramped, that loss to Ozon doesn't look so bad. He did pretty well at
that's
ITAs
true.
for himself. So at
That's
least it
true.
was a solid loss, even though you were probably even more upset because he is doing so well, because it's definitely a match you can prove yourself. Um, Speaking of that forehand, what can a junior player do to have a massive forehand like Perry Gregg? What's the key to that massive forehand?
The key is to have a certain style of your stroke um, that is just easily repeatable. Like one thing I think about guys with great forehands, you got guys that just off the top of my head, Steve Johnson, um, Nick Kyrgios, one guy who's my friend, Omni Kumar. Um, these guys have forehands where they hold the racket very Western, but the style, they have a distinct style of their forehand where, like Kyrgios and Steve Johnson, like they're very much like they go back like this. And Omni Kumar also just like he's lefty, but he goes back and he kind of tilts the racket back like this. And what that does is it's an easily repeatable pattern to your shot that's fun. Like it makes your forehand fun to hit because it's like I don't know the technical like aspect of what kind of pronating like this before your forehand is,
Right.
but for me it like really opens up like once you go through the shot, it really opens up that forehand. And I think that's like I don't know. I think it allows for like you to whip it more. And like those guys that have
Yeah.
massive forehands, they all do that. They really open it up and then whip it. And I think it makes it like disguised more. I think it disguises the forehand more.
Mhm.
Whereas like if you're like Federer and you have a continental kind of just kind of hit it like this, I think it's easier to kind of see where that's going. But also I think it's just like you miss it less when your brain is like loving what you're doing. And I think for me it makes it fun to kind of have a little distinct flair on your forehand.
No,
um
I like that
so
answer.
from
I used to turn my
That's what I would
hand
do.
like that in college, and I'd give
Yeah,
so many intermediate tennis lessons that whenever I would rally with intermediate players, I hit way too much spin. So I actually changed it because I was hitting too much
okay,
spin, and then I'll just randomly pull it out, and I'm like, why don't I hit the ball like this anymore? And I just like miss it. Just that
yeah,
flick and just going after the ball because I
yeah,
don't I don't get hit with a lot of guys that actually where I can like hit out and like hit a ton of spin or anything like that. Usually it's like keep the ball in play, teaching them basic pattern play, learning to extend rallies and stuff like that. So I don't ever get to, as much as I'd like, get to play really super fun tennis. Although my wife and I, we just had our first child. We had a son about a month ago. So high hopes that
congrats,
for some father son
congrats.
tennis at some point, if I can stay in shape, hopefully I'll be kicking his butt for a long time if he likes tennis. So we'll see. But no, I love that answer about the forehand. I think in the easily repeatable, but then also, like you said, you got to kind of enjoy what you're doing. So that's actually a really cool answer. That's not where I expected you to go with that. Um, you had some other pretty interesting results recently. Obviously, the loss to Ozon was disappointing to you. You also lost in three to Draxel. Could you tell us a little bit about that match? And obviously, people who follow college tennis know who he is. and the results that he's kind of had, and that obviously he has professional goals. So for you being someone coming from NAIA, which I hate to put you in a box, but that's not the norm to see somebody, there's great players at every level, but to see the results that you're having as an NAIA player, you're definitely standing out right now. So can we talk a little bit about the Draxel match and what you feel like you did well, or where the gap was, or where the separation really was?
Yeah, I mean, that match was a super crazy match. For me, I had just that was the second round of the Champagne 15K, and I had beaten his teammate Josh Lapadat in 3 sets, 7-6 in the third the night before. So I was really coming off a match where I got a lot of belief and a lot of confidence because that first round match against Lapadat, I thought I was going to lose. Like that was the type of match in previous months and years that I lose, where it's like because I played really well the first set, second set was tough, he played better. And then third set, it was down to the wire. It was tooth and nail. And I had really had not much energy left, not much belief at all that I was going to win. But that was a match where I was mentally strong. And I really just believed that if I stayed in there and didn't crack mentally, that he would crack. And he did. And so I realized after that match that that was the level of player that I can be. And so going into the match against Draxel, I was thinking like, hey, just tell myself, you know, I don't know what can happen if I continue to be mentally strong like that and continue to just fight for every single point and reset no matter what happens. And somehow, I came out slow. Draxel was playing Draxel's game. He's kind of plays like Rafa, lots of spin shots. It's champagne court, so they're a little bit slow, not too slow. And he got the better of me the first set. I was pretty bad, but I knew I had to stay mentally locked in, and I really believed in myself and believed I could win that match till the end. And somehow I was down a break in the second, I believe, and I came back and then took it to a tie break. And I actually I did. I mean, I'm kind of a crazy guy. I did an underhand arm serve and won that point with like a backhand line passing shot and like probably
Yeah.
screamed Ale or something like that. So
Yeah.
I was trying to give Draxel what he likes to bring to other players. That kind of
Right.
that college like
High energy.
grunting and high energy stuff, lots of screaming and stuff like that, which he wasn't doing. He wasn't being obnoxious or anything, but um yeah, that was fun. And then, I remember him smashing his racket against the bag after I won the second set. And I knew I was like, yeah, I'm in this. Like he's pissed. Like he thinks I should not lose a set to this guy. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
I'm in this. And then third set, I'm down a break. He's serving 5-3 for the match. And I mean, I played just an unbelievable return game. And at that point, like I break back, it's 5-4. I'm serving on serve, but I'm out of gas. Like I have nothing left. I think I took a medical. I did a little bit of sportsmanship and took a medical timeout and just tried to like eat a bar and like get some more energy. But at that point, like I played 3 sets in that last day, and like that took a lot out of me. And then going 3 sets again, and I was just like really out of gas. Um and then so I hold after my medical timeout, and then he immediately takes a medical timeout at like 6-5 before I serve again. And then, yeah, he plays really good. Like he had me running coast to coast, hit a couple lines, and yeah, he got me there. But
What was
but yeah, it was
working? What was working in the match whenever you were winning points or stringing points together? Did you feel like your defense was great in that match? Was there a certain pattern play that was really working? Was it your serve plus one? Were you able to get the ball behind him? Were you able to get him on the run? Like, were you, I don't know, hitting huge body serves? Like, what was working? I'm just curious what was
Yeah,
working in the
my
match.
my my serve and forehand are my main weapons. So I mean, my serve, I feel like I was hitting my spots out wide pretty well. I have a massive kick serve, bounces pretty well on the champagne courts. So I was really, kicking it to his backhand, and then he's having and then I'm following it up with my forehand, and I'm ripping it. I'm going short angle cross court. He's running out there stretching. I'm really ripping my forehand as hard as I can, and with the more solid back end that I have, I was able to kind of, get him running and then, obviously finish it off he couldn't get to some of my shots. So I was really just playing, trying to be consistent, but I mean, just hurt him with my forehand, and
Yeah.
then my forehand's yeah, it's good enough on D. If the courts are like kind of fast, then I can really just like hit a lot of winners and unreturnable shots with my forehand. So that was what was working in that match. But yeah.
No, that's cool. I like that. It's funny. This is a totally different tangent, but people on the internet who I'm not trying to call people casuals or call anybody out, or maybe even people that just don't have great takes or whatever, but are passionate enough to be keyboard warriors when it comes to tennis. But it's infuriating to me. I enjoy the college atmosphere, and I wish tennis they would allow everyone to kind of share their passion and get loud and kind of, bring that fire to the court. And it's frustrating from a social media standpoint at how if Rafa wants to get fired up after a big point and throw out the old chainsaw, revving the chainsaw fist pump, he's passionate. But then Ben Shelton's throwing fist pumps, and all of a sudden he's this cocky, arrogant, monster of an immature person. And I'm like, nobody was saying that about Rafa whenever he was 20. And it's frustrating to me. And people can say it or cannot say it, but it frustrates me because I feel like it's nothing but the color of his skin as to why people get
Mhm.
mad and why he's not allowed to celebrate and why he's not allowed to be a kid. Because when Rafa was 20, he was throwing fist pumps like crazy. He was getting loud, yelling Bomo like all the time, and everybody's like, wow, this guy's awesome. We love him. I don't know if it's also because he's American. And so some people are just very anti American and it rubs people the wrong way or what it is. And we don't have to elaborate on that. But I love that at least at, futures and hopefully challenger level, people are allowed to kind of express themselves because there are times when you have nice crowds, but then some of those matches, it's an insanely impressive level of tennis and there's really not that many people there watching. So I would hope that you would at least get to be, passionate on the court and enjoy it. Um, because it stinks kind of whenever the fans aren't getting take that in. Anyway, that's a completely different tangent. I'm going to move
If
on.
I may say one thing,
Yeah.
I feel like the same people that don't like Djokovic are the same people that are saying that Ben Shelton is obnoxious and cocky, like
Yeah.
they're the same people who are like, oh, Djokovic is so arrogant. And I like Djokovic. I think he's funny.
I,
I think his sense of humor is funny. I mean, me, I like watching Ben Shelton, and his hang up the phone celebration. I love it. I mean, I don't think it's like anything that's not part of the entertainment of tennis. I don't think it's anything that doesn't come from being a competitor out there. I think that's what, I think it does come from college tennis for Ben Shelton. And you see other guys like Maxime Cressy who have been hounded for, oh, his crazy come on celebrations. When Maxime Cressy was first succeeding on the Challenger Tour, he was one of those guys
mhm.
worse than Draxel or Ben Shelton, where he was screaming after every point, "Come on!" as loud as he can. And I mean, it's a bit of sportsmanship, of course, because it gets in the other guy's head, of course, but like it's definitely something that college tennis brings out. I think it's like when you're in an environment when the opponent's team is screaming for their player as loud as they can, like sometimes it's just something that's brought out of you, I think, honestly. And I don't think you can blame the player I don't think you can blame players like Draxel, Shelton for letting that come out. I don't think you can blame them for that. I
Right.
think that's just something that, people are going to hate or love, and it's part of the entertainment of the sport. So
Yeah.
I think
Could
it's
you
all fair game.
could you imagine as successful as Novak Djokovic has been as a Serbian, if he had the same personality that Nikola Jokic has in the NBA? Imagine he had won this many Grand Slams, but then instead of caring about the game, giving back to the people ranked less than him, instead of wanting to be an ambassador for the sport, he was busy looking at horse races and stuff, and he was dominating our sport while acting like he really didn't care. Wouldn't that be much worse? I don't understand. People are like, "Oh, he's a bad champion," and they get so frustrated. He drives. I'm like, that's such a bad take. The dude is such an ambassador for the sport, and he's done arguably more than a lot of people when it comes to actually growing the game. He could just not care. We've seen what other like Serbian stars and other sports look like, and it's a totally different personality. I think he has a great personality personally. I enjoy him, but yeah, those people, it's frustrating. I don't know. There's some people will
Yeah,
listen
I
to this
love
and think we're
Djokovic.
idiots. Some
I
people
love
will listen to
Djokovic.
this and think we're idiots for liking Novak Djokovic. I don't know, but um, it is what it is. Okay, back on topic. I'm gonna roll through some of these really quickly. Um, I let's see. Do you have, let's say let's say there, I'm sure you run into other players and junior players and such, and you were approached by a player who is solid by all means. Maybe they've got a forehand, a backhand, a serve. Like fundamentally, they look pretty good. Um, and you've got a player who either wants to go from good to great or great to excellent. What would be the best piece of advice you would give to someone like that, who's really maybe looking to move the needle, whether it be, um, you know, some mental advice or maybe a drill that's just like that is the bread and butter when that whenever I plateaued when I was this old, that really changed my game and helped me go to the next level. Like what kind of advice would you give to someone who's really trying to maybe find the next level in their own game?
That's a great question. Um, I would say like really have an open ear to the people around you who want to coach you, listen to your coaches and kind of, you know, like I would say, because if you're a talented player, but you're not necessarily showing that in matches, I feel like a lot of good players, they look great in practice, but they have trouble showing it in matches, showing their peak level. And I think one of the things, is um like finding a way to kind of visualize something that'll calm your nerves in a match. And I think one thing is like visualization is something, it's a technique that you can kind of call on emotional like energy and emotions, different emotions. And that's one thing that kind of helps me like really lock in, and really forget about the surroundings, whether there's people watching you or whether you're under pressure to win this match or whether, you're not playing so well. Like visualization is something where you can kind of like, for me, I use like fear. Fear is kind of what motivates me to kind of like calm my nerves and just play. But I would say like there's a lot of time that like when I was younger, I struggled with kind of I would play well in practice, but then nerves would get to me in the match. And so I think like figuring out a way to kind of calm your nerves and kind of forget the surroundings and forget that your parents are watching, they want you to win so bad and like really just do it for yourself or whatever motivates you. Like finding your inner motivation, that's something that can take you from good to great and from great to excellent. And then another thing I would say is, you know don't give up. I mean, like literally just not giving up. If you're finding yourself like you're a player and you're at an academy, you're in a situation where you want to become better but you're struggling, you don't know how to become better. I think the only thing you can do is kind of open your mind and look for solutions to your different problems in your game. At the same time as just not giving up. Don't give up. Like if take a couple days off if you feel like quitting, but don't like take 2 weeks off and start doing some other thing. Like don't quit and go, don't do anything drastic. Just like take a couple days off and go right back to it. Go right back to the drawing board. Think of new solutions in your time off. Do some fitness in your time off. But like don't quit because quitting ultimately is what will take you from good to non-existent anymore. But if you just stick at it, and trust that, I mean, they say it and it's so cliche, but trust the process. Like it's only the process of doing things repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. That repetition is what makes you a great player. Like being able to, say you want to have the forehand of a Steve Johnson or the forehand of a Nick Kyrgios, like you really have to go out there every day and do it hundreds of times, different locations. You got to work on the inside out forehands. You got to do, the running, have your coach feed you 100 balls side to side. I mean, it's crazy, but like that is what will take you from being a good player to a great player. I mean, and you might go insane in the process. I mean, that's why guys like Andre Agassi claimed, in his book that he hated the game growing up, but his dad was right in the sense that that repetition over years and years is what makes you a great player. And so yeah, I mean, that would be my advice. Kind of long-winded, but yeah.
That was more like a heart to heart. I mean, you really got you. I mean, you were really helping this person out. That was an intimate explanation. They must know this junior player that asked you for advice must have really known you pretty well to really dig in like that.
I don't have a little brother, but if I did, that would be my advice
That's it
for him.
right there. That's that little brother advice. I like it. No, that was awesome. What do you feel like a good practice session looks like? Like, what are the components of a really good practice session? And then do you have a favorite drill?
Ooh, my coach. So the second part first. My coach does this drill where, um, he has me back up. So he'll feed me a high, deep ball, and I'll back up and hit either a forehand, like a forehand deep spinning shot or a backhand deep topspin shot. And then the immediate next ball will be a drop shot. So I'll go back for the high spinning forehand. Then the next ball is a drop shot to the backhand side. And then I'll
Mhm.
go get that drop shot. And then I'll back pedal. And then I'll hit a backhand high spinning shot and then immediately get the forehand drop. And he does that probably 8 times, and that one is a lung killer. And I also think it's something that, like, for me, one of the biggest things strategically wise is whenever I get a drop shot, I always like you gotta always go cross court with it. You either gotta like drop shot it back or go, but like mainly drop shot it cross court because a lot of times like they're waiting for that for you to just push it line or push it right back to them that when you get that drop shot and that's when they lob you or pass you. But if you drop it back cross court, a lot of times they're not expecting that and you can either hit a winner or they'll just like they won't be ready for it and then you're on the like you have the advantage and you can kind of volley it back away the opposite way. But so that's a good drill for to practice that. And then also I feel like something that's a hard shot when you're like a good player and not a great player is that high spinny looping ball like that pushes you way back in the court, and practicing being able to go forward into that shot is really key. And so that's a drill that practices both of those things. So yeah, that would be a drill that I would pick. And then what was the first part of the
What do
question?
you feel like? What do you feel like is
Oh, great.
what
Yeah.
makes a good practice session? What does that look like for you to have a really good practice session?
Yeah. I'm at a point where I just like working on one key thing. For me, it's my serve. I feel like I don't like to do a lot of repetition anymore of like, let's go out there and hit 45 minutes cross court forehands. Like I think that's stupid. I think like doing that just makes you hate the game. And I think that working on small but focused parts of your game, like going out there and doing a basket of serves and putting targets out to the four corners and doing that for an hour and then going to the gym and working on your fitness. Like for me, those are, I mean, okay, obviously each player is different and you should work on what you need to work on, but like a focused workout like that, for me, it's the serve and then the fitness. Those are two things that like I feel the most ready to play a
Yeah.
tournament if I'm fit and if my serve's working.
Yeah.
The forehand, backhand, those are things that like I just need, maybe 45 minutes of practice of those to, just hitting cross court and line to like feel ready. But it's the serve and the fitness. Those are the key things for me. So I feel like, like in my downtown, like right now, I'm not, practicing. I just came off a tournament. I have a couple weeks before my next tournament. Um, like those are the things that I do. Just, an hour of serving, 40 minutes, 30 minutes of like ground strokes, and then hitting the gym for maybe 2 hours. like, or even more, whatever it be. Maybe I'm playing soccer for fitness or basketball for fitness, or just literally in the gym doing, running on the treadmill on the stationary bike for 30 minutes, and then like doing other preventative injury prevention stuff. Like that would be a key workout for me. I love that because it keeps my mind fresh. Like if I feel like I'm on the court for 2 hours hitting ground strokes, I'm gonna hate tennis. But if I'm just you get sick of that. If you do that 7 days in a row, it's so exhausting and just like I feel like I don't need that anymore to kind of be to, I need less of those things and
Yeah,
more focused. Like,
very focused.
okay, this today we're gonna work on my short angle cross court forehand and my short angle cross court backhand, like certain things like that. So I think that's so much more effective um, once you're at a certain level of skill than just the repetition, but blind repetition. Blind repetition doesn't help unless you're like, if you're a good player, but those are holes in your game. Like if you have no backhand, yeah, okay, like 2 hours of repetition on your backhand is going to help. But also like doing certain drills, like I said, help me on my backhand, hitting with the lefty, just doing a forehand, lefty forehand, that helps you with your backhand. So that's more of a focused thing than like, okay, let's just do the same thing over and over. So that's my advice.
Have you ever read The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle?
I'm sure my dad has, read it or referenced it to me. I
Yeah.
can't say I remember like
You
the
should read
exact
it. Well,
specifics of
I'm
it.
just you're practicing
Okay.
your focused practice sounds a little bit more like what maybe Tiger Woods would do than the
Okay.
average person. You're having very deep practice, and whenever you enter a practice setting and you are focused on one particular thing, um, scientifically proven that I can't remember the exact percent, so someone will probably get mad at me later, but it's like 15% more effective. But if you think about it, you had
Okay.
100 practice sessions a year, and instead for the average person, it may not even count for 100 because they weren't focused, and yours counts for 115 sessions because you were focused on that one thing, that purposeful practice.
Right.
It's a real needle mover. So based on what you're saying, I'm not surprised that you're starting to have the results that you are because your mindset, for me personally, listening to you seems to be in the right place. So that's exciting to hear. um if you could go back and give advice to your 13-year-old self, or even your 18-year-old self. Let's start with, your young self. What would that advice be?
Um, yeah, this is a tricky question for me. I felt like I was kind of a late bloomer, like puberty wise and maturity wise. Um, so I feel like at 13, I was kind of like I was an average kid. I was playing a lot of video games and, I didn't really, I didn't know exactly. I mean, I was going to school. I went to public school all the way through high school. And I feel like at 12, 13, like I was kind of wishing that I was on, maybe homeschooled or sent to an academy or being able to play the ITF junior tournaments. And instead I was, I had a life that was full of many other wonderful things. I played the violin starting at age 9 until I was 18. I got really good at that. There were a lot of other things that I was doing in the meantime that were not necessarily what most top 13-year-old junior tennis players were doing. But I think it gives me, a full life and makes me a full person, and I'm not just a tennis player. And I think after my tennis career, that's something that I'll really appreciate because I won't feel such a huge loss as someone who is only a tennis player. So looking back, I think I'm really appreciative for what my parents chose for me and the path they chose for me. Um, and I would just kind of tell myself that to kind of, yeah, I wish I could wisen my 13-year-old self and make him realize that, oh, like just accept that this is not the path you were expecting, but it's but but maybe it can be a path that still works and you can still be a great tennis player, even though I'm not on the path I thought I was going to be on. Um, and that would kind of be my advice. And then the other advice is just stop being an idiot and get off the video games. But I mean, you can never. I think one thing is like I know guys who play video games now, and I don't play video games. And I think I went through that phase when I was 13, and I mean, I went through it pretty heavily, but I mean, at least now I'm focused on the important things. So I think, um, I don't know. I would just say I wish I could maybe mature him a little bit more, but no.
I think it's for the people listening, this might be a good time to get into the fact that you were back-to-back Little Mo national champion. To hear you say things like, I was 13 and felt like I kind of developed late, or maybe hit puberty or your growth spurt late. There are other kids out there who were not Little Mo national champions back-to-back years, who, maybe didn't have the same junior results that you have, that might be 13 or 14 and don't feel like they're falling behind because they haven't hit their growth spurt, or
Mm.
what, or maybe they haven't lost that baby fat, or however you want to word it. They haven't had that kind of big growth spurt for themselves. But to hear that from yourself, to say, hey, appreciate the moment that you're in. Hey, I wish that I could have been out playing the ITF junior circuit, but, I was lucky to get to do this, and that, and I should have maybe appreciated it more. Or, imagine you could go back in time and instead of being frustrated or whatever that you weren't getting to do this, and that, but if you had been more focused and enjoying what you were doing, who knows where you'd be at this point now, because you could have made even bigger gains if you'd thrown yourself more into, I know people are going to think this is crazy, but
Yeah.
the brain development of more into violin practice, more into your soccer practice, more into, instead of being frustrated with your practice sessions because you're not getting to go to the tournaments you want to, or you're not happy with your results, you know, enjoying and embracing what you are getting to do. So it's just it's an interesting take. Obviously, we'd all love to have more maturity in our younger selves. I would hope, I think that's great advice. But it's a fun little nugget to see it coming from someone who had a lot of success early and is having great success now, and maybe has a different path than what people might have expected from someone who, at what, 8 and 9 years old, won that back to back. Can you quickly elaborate a little bit on your Little Mo experience?
Oh yeah, no, Little Mo. Actually, it's funny. I was at the Cornell tournament, and I believe the I was talking to there was a little girl who was a ball girl, and she's the daughter of the Cornell men's tennis coach. And she was super excited to talk to the players and stuff like that. And she mentioned Little Mo, and I was like, oh, I played Little Mo too. And she had the Little Mo shirt on, and it's an amazing tournament for kids. I think it's a tournament that makes kids love tennis more and enjoy it. I mean, I still have the best memories from that tournament, just from playing ping pong off the court. I mean, I played ping pong with, I think, Jensen, and there were a lot of other guys. And then hearing about like, oh, Andy Roddick won this tournament, and other guys played this tournament, top players. And now looking back, I go on the website and I'm like, oh my God, this top player played this tournament, this top player played this tournament. I think it's really cool, and kind of like a cool status tournament for tennis. And but yeah, I had an amazing experience. I mean, I was lucky. I was my parents had me in my first tennis tournament at age 5. My dad started me on the court at like age 1.5. I think he had me at the ball machine like at age 1.5 too, and it wasn't exactly working, but then I think they tied a balloon to a string to the ceiling and had me hit, and that's how I started the game. So, and then my mom took me to tennis lessons at age 3. I had a coach, Jim Edwards, who was, key to teaching me the fundamentals. And then I somehow, I was kind of mature at that age, and I, excelled. And I was also, it helped that I was bigger for 8 and 9. And yeah, I love tennis, and you know that was the time where I was just like playing, and I was winning. And yeah, so it was I have great memories of my childhood, and especially Little Mo is a big part of it. So Yeah, sure.
And who did you play in the final, Little Mo?
I want to say so back to back years, I played Jensen Brooksby in the final, and Jensen is someone who has skyrocketed in the last few years. I think he went to Baylor maybe for a year, but I remember like being 14, 15 and seeing him. That was the point where he started doing really well. He started winning futures and won Kalamazoo, I think, or something like that. And then yeah, so I was watching him and I wasn't having as much success as him at the time, but I remember, we would play ping pong after the match at Little Mo, and um, so yeah, I'm super excited to see all his success, and hopefully he can come back from his wrist injury and hit the tour hard. But yeah, that was interesting to see, him doing so well, and it's not surprising. I mean, Little Mo is a tournament that just feel like skyrockets guys into the the tour. If you look at their website, I mean, a lot of the
Yeah,
guys and girls are like,
they name a lot of
um,
names on the website.
they have a lot of names, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it'll be your name one day, right?
hey, that's the goal. That's the goal.
That's
So
the
we'll see.
goal. We can hopefully be my wife and I will be bringing our son and we watching you at the U.S. Open someday, or something like that. That'd be pretty sick. Uh, you never know how everything's going to play out, but it would be pretty cool. Obviously, you're someone with big goals, and we can hear a lot of that just from the answers that you're giving. I feel like we've answered a lot of these things, but could you I just are curious, do you have any tennis hot takes, anything that you're really passionate about, anything that you'd really like to see change, whether it be at the junior level, the college level, or the pro level?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think like for me, I think changing my diet is something that has really helped me, and I think um I think that still needs to keep changing, and I think it'll help American players especially, succeed a lot if they change their diet. I mean, I think it's a problem in America in general. It's kind of harder to eat healthy. It's expensive, and but I think it's something that for me it like has helped me a lot, and it's something that I think is so key. I mean, like that's also why I like Djokovic is because of the healthy food and stuff,
Yeah.
and um I also wish that's also something I wish I could have told myself at age 13 is like, don't go to that ice cream truck every day at open lunch and buy honey barbecue Fritos every day. Don't do that. Don't buy Sour Patches and honey barbecue Fritos. That's actually the most important advice I would tell them. Don't do that every day. That's so funny. That
That's
reminded me of that. But
that's a great take, actually. It's a little different than the way that a lot of people kind of go with that. Maybe they want to see a rule change or this or that, but actually that's a problem that, we're seeing in the United States just in general. But if more players took their diet more seriously, I think they would see a change. Obviously, like you said, players who might be struggling with cramping or they don't feel like their breathing's right or their fitness level is right, um, that can be the difference between, I mean, to basically keep moving up through levels, you need to be winning two-thirds of your matches. That's kind of what you need to see yourself doing. If you want to be someone who's going from playing futures to challengers, those guys are winning at least two-thirds of their matches. Those guys from going from the challenger tour to the ATP tour eventually, those guys are winning two-thirds of their matches. And then those guys who get to the top of the ATP tour, they're winning. If you look at their season, their records, they're winning a minimum of two-thirds of their matches. And so, and then people get frustrated, well, not people, but internet warriors, they'll get frustrated and they'll talk smack about guys who are really talented, like Marcos Giron, who, can do a little bit of everything, but maybe, he's not winning tour titles. It's like the guy's winning enough of his matches to stay top 100 for how many years now? And it doesn't seem like he's
Mhm.
going anywhere. He's doing all the right things and he's getting the best. And if he goes on a hot streak at some point, who knows what his career high will eventually be? He's doing really well over in China right now. But basically, what I'm trying to say is if changing your diet wins you five more matches a year in your tournaments, at the end of the day, that could be the difference between making it and not making it. And
Yeah.
so I do think more people need to take that more seriously. And I wish that our country in general would get on board with some of these other countries that are a little bit healthier than us and maybe ban some of the dyes and gross things that are in our food and allowed to be in our food instead of
Yeah,
approving things
100%.
like putting plastic into our meat. How about instead they take things out of it that we know are not good for us instead of allowing us to be full of fillers and such. But that's a tangent that I
Yeah,
didn't mean to
100%.
go on, but you're definitely
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
What you put into your body is going to affect your results. So I think that that's huge. I think, Perry, I could ask you a lot of questions. Um, but I'm going to give you a chance to just share. Do you have a happiest tennis moment?
Um, I mean, to be honest, like in recent years, I've been really happy this last couple weeks. I mean, um, I've gotten a lot of accolades here at Holy Cross, and these, winning the national championship is definitely up there on one of my happiest tennis moments. And then succeeding in the futures last week. I hope to have plenty more of these successes, but these have definitely been some key weeks that if I were not to play tennis anymore, I would look back and think, oh yeah, like I did that, I did that. Um, I think one of my first ATP points, I had a win over in Tunisia where I I won 7-6 in the third and I beat a guy who's 500 in the world and um that's also a moment where you look back and you think, oh, that's a sick moment, and it was also like my birthday that day, so that was
Oh,
pretty
it's
cool.
double whammy.
Um Definitely, yeah. I mean, when I was a little kid, winning Little Mo at 8 and 9, that was a massive moment for me. I absolutely love that. I won the nationals. That was in Austin, Texas, and I got to fly in, and my grandma got to come watch, and those were two really fun moments for me. And then obviously, yeah, Murphy Jensen was there, and Murphy was a really fun, super amazing guy, and to meet him at that age, and he was just a gem of a person in the tennis world, I feel like, and then watching him commentate and stuff like that was awesome. So meeting him was a super cool thing. But yeah, I would say the last few weeks have honestly been some of the highlights of my tennis career. So I hope to keep it going, and I believe in myself now. So we'll see what I can do. But those recently these are my highlights. So
I think there's nothing wrong with that answer. I think recently you've been kind of on a roll. So I think those are some pretty good highlights and happy moments so
yeah.
far. I try not to make this show about me, but I talked to you a little bit before the show. For the people that actually know me, they know I'm pretty passionate about helping people and coaching. And when I first went to college, before I was even, I kind of started playing tennis too late, and I became obsessed. I've spent probably thousands of hours watching videos on tennis players and coaches and such on YouTube, and obviously now on Instagram and things like that. But whenever I was 18 years old and I first went to college, maybe 19, I remember being on YouTube and watching and coming across a video of lessons between Murphy Jensen and Perry Gregg and thinking, wow, this kid's really good. What can I take from these lessons to help the kids that I'm coaching? And I remember watching all of those videos on YouTube, and they're still up there. I went back and looked today; they're still there. It's like 13 years ago, and it's crazy how time flies. And I was like, man, what's going to happen to Perry Gregg, this guy, and you're still writing that story. So it's cool how, you don't even realize you were 8, 9 years old and your tennis
Mhm.
lessons that I think maybe your parents posted on YouTube at the time
Yeah.
were influencing a guy who, wanted to be a tennis coach and was just
Mhm.
trying to gain knowledge from anywhere that I could grab it, just being a guy from a
Mhm.
small town who became obsessed with the game. So I've been a big Perry Gregg fan for a very long time and will continue to be, and will be rooting for you, uh, through your continued hopefully success and everything that you have coming forward. Um, I've got
Appreciate
just
it.
two more questions here. Here at the Grassroots Tennis Pod, we believe in giving people their flowers. Who is someone underappreciated in the tennis community?
Uh, oh man. Um, Underappreciated in the tennis community. Um, a coach or what are
You
you
can shout,
thinking
it could
like
be a
towards
coach
for me or
for you. Yeah. A coach, a community leader, a tournament director, someone who's maybe played the background that people just don't know that deserves a thank you or a shout out. They can play a big role for you, or you've seen someone that's helped other people. I mean, is there's tennis sometimes there's
yeah.
coaching, especially it can be a thankless job a lot of the time.
Yeah, I would shout out my parents first of all. My mom and my dad. They were, my dad's had the idea of making me a tennis player. He played tennis until college and you know, he doesn't get enough credit for what he did supporting our family and instilling me with the dreams to pursue tennis and then my mom is the one who she to this day packs me meal prep. I like eating quinoa and veggies before my match and so she'll meal prep me that and I'll take it along to my tournaments and she's someone that's like I would not even be any, I would be nowhere without her. So to honestly shout her out is something that she really deserves, and she goes underappreciated for sure. So first of all, her. So thanks, mom, and my coaches here at Holy Cross also um, are unreal and especially Nikita Shneshko has been traveling with me the last month and he was with me at the national tournament and coaching me and I think he's underappreciated as a player and as a coach and he comes from Iowa tennis and I think I've met like four, five or six of the Iowa men's tennis players and all of them are superb men and just really supportive guys and they welcome me like family and then Ross Wilson also the coach of Iowa tennis who's now the assistant at Notre Dame. I think these are all people who are, really underappreciated in the tennis community, given what happened with Iowa tennis. But so I mean, I would shout all of them out. And yeah, and then my coach Eric Mahone, he's been super helpful to me on the court and off the court, and supporting me going to futures and supporting my dream as a pro tennis player. And also, I mean at the national tournament I was having a rough day and I lost the doubles match and he gave me a hug and that just honestly that is what I needed in the moment and I'm an only child so I didn't have my parents there and like that's one thing that is hard as an only child. I feel like I'm a little bit sensitive, a little bit like need some love from time to time, so I appreciated that hug. So thanks, Coach Mahone, for that. So yeah, those are the people I think are underappreciated and you know, um, yeah, that's my answer for that.
Well, especially it was kind of nice to hear about the University of Iowa, them getting a shout out, all those guys, whether they were on the coaching staff or the guys that were playing there. I think that anyone who's paying attention, realizing how many of those guys either went somewhere else and continued to play tennis
Yeah.
or got involved in coaching in some way since that program was ended, just shows what type of quality program that they had going there and how sad it was for them to lose their tennis program. So, hopefully they don't lose their program forever and maybe those people over at Iowa will figure it out, but it's nice to see that they're still contributing to the tennis community and being involved. um, Perry, what's something I should have asked you? Is there anything else that you want to talk about or that just come into mind or you just feel like people need to know about Perry Gregg?
Um, um, I feel like I've talked a lot about, my story and stuff. And yeah, I feel like I answered a lot of good questions. Um, yeah, I just building on that last question, I just feel like, I can relate to the University of Iowa tennis players a lot just because they had that what happened to them kind of, was a hardship, and it was something that, unexpectedly happened to them in life. And, I'll admit that I've had some hardships, that I can't say were in my control. And I think that's why I can relate to them. And I think that's something that going forward is something that makes us stronger, more resilient, more motivated to succeed. And I think it's something that's why you see them, and they're such hard workers. I think that's something that like gives us an edge in the future is when you've had things out of your control happen to you, hardships, that makes you a tougher person, and it builds your character. And I think we'll see that going forward. And that's something I kind of wanted to mention is just like I think that's why I get along with Nikita and some of the other Iowa guys and Ross so well is just because I think we can relate on those things. And but yeah, another thing, another shout out to um, some of the Notre Dame guys who I've practiced with unofficially, the last year. They've been really helpful to me, and, playing practice matches with them and stuff like that. That's been super sick. But yeah, in terms of me, man, I mean, I'm a pretty laid back, fun loving guy. I've got a lot of stories to share that are kind of fun, with some of my tennis friends, Alafia and Roy Smith. And um, I've had a great time over the last few years just meeting a lot of guys, Zeke included. I mean, one funny thing, I was playing really well against Shinsuke Mitsui at the Ithaca tournament, and I win the match, and match point I'm super ecstatic. Like the second set came to a breaker, and I win the match, and I look over at Zeke, and Zeke's practicing on the next court, and I was so pumped. I was like, fire me up, Zeke, fire me up. And I look over at him, and he's just like he's shocked because I'm not normally like that amped, that hyped,
Yeah,
and he's normally the guy who's like super
yeah.
amped, but he was like, yeah, I think he felt it too because he was like, "Yeah, Perry, yeah, PG, like, yeah." So that was a funny moment I thought I could share. And
No.
Zeke's an absolute legend. I think he's also really underappreciated in the tennis community. I think he's a absolute, blessing and a great guy to everyone that he encounters. So
Uh,
thanks
I
to Zeke.
I don't know. I'd have to do the years in my head or whatever when Zeke can officially run for president of the United States. But I think that he definitely should be on the ballot at some point, and that um, he's doing a
100%.
lot for the world and the people in the tennis community. But I feel like he might have an even bigger purpose. I think we need him to maybe save our country. He's got the energy for it, and
Oh, he does. Oh,
he's fun to
100%.
talk to. So I could definitely, if you give that man enough coffee, he can solve just about any problem.
Enough Dunkin' Donuts, coffee. Yeah,
Yeah, just give
that's
him
so
the
funny.
coffee. Okay. Well, Perry, where can people find you? Do you want to share your socials if they want to follow your story? Do you want to shout out maybe your Instagram or any other place that people can follow along with everything that you're doing?
Yeah, my Instagram is Perry Gregg _. You can just look up Perry Gregg on Instagram.
With two
That's my main
G's.
social media with two G's, Gregg. It's my main social media. Um,
Perry spelled like the platypus.
Perry, like Perry the Platypus. I've gotten that, every once in a while my entire life, and it never ceases to annoy me. But at this point I rock with it. I even have part of the song memorized, even though I never watched the show growing up. Um, so
I think that
yeah,
if
but
I think if you make the US Open at some point, whoever decides to give you a kit at some point, it needs to be Perry the Platypus color themed, probably, and then you will just be all over the internet and have so many fans
it's a good
immediately.
point.
I mean,
That's a good point. I think
a
so.
whole
I think so.
generation would flock to
I
that.
think
People
so.
would be showing up to your matches in platypus like outfits, like, and then with some type of horn that makes that platypus noise, it would be really annoying but hilarious. And I think that's what
Mhm.
the world needs. And I think that's even more reason that the world should be supporting you and trying to push, help you to make it on the pro tour and to be following you. So follow Perry Gregg. So it's Perry Gregg, two G's, and then underscore. Just
Yeah, and just another shameless plug, follow Holy Cross Tennis on Instagram as well. We're gonna be making waves in NAIA soon. Hopefully we're gonna be in the running for a national championship this coming semester in January.
yeah.
So yeah,
Can
follow
you,
Holy Cross Tennis as well.
and just one more time for us, can you make the case for NAIA tennis, maybe for those people who are trying to figure out what type of tennis they want to play in college, and maybe the level of players that they can see, and the types of programs that exist within NAIA that people maybe don't know about.
Yeah, for me it's a great way to, I mean, here at Holy Cross is right at Notre Dame. And so our program allows for, graduates of Holy Cross to get into MBA programs at Notre Dame and kind of get into that league of school. And so that's a massive pulling point for me and my teammates as well, and anyone looking to kind of pursue that degree academically at Notre Dame, but also, it's an opportunity to compete against. And I will say, like, NAIA does not necessarily have the depth of a
Right.
Division One status, but the guys at the top, myself included, are, at least Division One level, if not pro. So, and a lot of them have ATP points or played professionally before and kind of didn't have the funding to continue playing pro. So that's a lot of the level of player that you get in NAIA. So I think it's an underappreciated and slept on division for sure. And they're a little bit less rules about when and how long you can practice and certain things like that. So that definitely helps as well for, if you're looking to become a pro or looking to play tennis and aren't Division One eligible for some reason. I think the NCAA rules are really strict, and it can cut out a lot of guys that, maybe should get a chance to play Division One, but don't because the rules are so strict. And I think that process is, something that can improve. But in the meantime, hey, come play in AIA, come to Holy Cross, and get a chance to play futures and get a chance to, you know, play college tennis. I mean, it's a way that many countries just don't have. That after high school, you don't have an opportunity to continue tennis, but here in America, we have that opportunity. So, if you're not Division One eligible, NAI is the best next bet. So,
And even for people who maybe aren't struggling with their NCAA eligibility, or maybe they're trying to decide whether they should play college tennis or just be done, I've known several people over the years that I felt like level wise and they enjoyed the game should have pursued college tennis and maybe weren't seeing the NCAA offers that they thought they were. Maybe the recruiting didn't go the way that it should. And they said,
mhm,
well, I could look elsewhere, or I can just go to school and I could just pick this state school and I could go. The NAIA schools, there's a lot of really good schools out there where you can get a good
mhm,
education and have an opportunity to still
mhm,
compete at a very high level.
mhm.
So, for those people who have not taken the time to look at NAIA programs, this might be your wake up call to go out and look at options outside of what the NCAA Division One can offer, because there's a lot of options out there. So, uh,
100%.
Perry, thank you so much. Um, my last question is just, who do you think needs to come on the Grassroots Tennis Pod? Who's someone who's a tennis brain or has stories to share that we really need to have on here? That would be great for us to pick their brain. Keep in mind, whoever you say, you have to help us get this person on the pod, because you're the man with the connections, not me. I'm merely a small town guy with no one to talk tennis with. So, does anyone come to mind that you think we should have on the pod?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend my buddy Alafia Ayeni. He's a Cornell alum, Kentucky alum. He's on the pro tour. I think he's ranked 500 in the world. and he's just a super personable guy, has a lot of great stories to share, a lot of wisdom, super intelligent guy. So I would recommend him. And then any of the Iowa guys, Nikita or any Kareem or any of those guys who are, pursuing careers in coaching and professional doubles or singles or stuff like that. So any of those guys, I think they have a lot of insight into the game and college tennis and stuff like that. So I'd be willing to help get any of those guys on the podcast.
That would be awesome. We would appreciate it. Perry, thank you so much for your time. We are wishing you all the best, and everyone out there needs to make sure and go give Perry and the Holy Cross tennis team a follow on Instagram and the other place that oh yeah, Holy Cross and Perry. There was not a third place, right? That's
No,
it.
it was just follow me
Follow
at Perry
Perry
Gregg
Gregg.
_ and Holy
Oh,
Cross Tennis.
absolutely. Give him a follow. We're wishing you all the best. And for those people who are
Thank you.
listening to the Grassroots Tennis Pod, you can find us on socials at Grassroots Tennis Pod or at G Tennis Pod on Twitter, because they said that name was too long. It continues to annoy me. Other than that, if you have any questions, you can email us at grassrootstennispod@gmail.com. Perry, thank you so much, man. We appreciate you, wishing you all the best, and hopefully we see you soon.
Thank you so much as well. Right back at you.